This is Therapy-ish. All right, so thank you, Therapy-ish listeners and followers. Today, what we're going to talk about is insecure relationships here with Connie. And I want her to kind of tell you guys a little bit about herself, what population she prefers working with / specializes in, and we'll kind of jump into the episode from there.
All right, so I'm Connie. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I do work with couples, children as individuals, adult individuals. The population that I work mostly with is going to be single or divorced women, or that's the population I like to work with the most. So that's it.
She left out she likes couples.
I do like couples. That's fun. Yes, it's fun.
And I'm going to tell y'all I don't. I'm just going to be very honest about that. But we're going to start by kind of just going between more so the difference between insecure relationships or insecure individuals within the relationships and people who feel unprotected in relationships, because those are two different things. We just going to kind of work through what both of those look like in a relationship, how therapy can support that, and how that will show up in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that I can get the understanding of the difference of the two, because I can definitely get down with insecure relationships, insecurities with the individual, because that's what makes couples fun.
Mm-hmm.
Is all that comes to the forefront. Relationships tend to be that microscope on your emotional and mental health. Absolutely love it.
Absolutely.
But as far as not feeling protected, that's two different things. So I hope I'm going to get that understanding of how different that is.
Oh, absolutely. So, I guess one of the reasons why I really came up with this particular episode is because when I was working with couples, I still have a few couples that I have, but these are my good couples. I'm just going to keep saying that. These are my good couples. Now don't get me wrong. Every therapy session with these couples aren't the best, but they are doing the work. It's not like they're coming in and like, I'm just like, okay, you guys are just paying me to facilitate an argument. They're literally here to do the actual work. So what I was noticing in like talking to couples, I was asking, so what are the qualities you were looking for in a significant other? And like, usually I go down this long list, but one of the words that I always end up linking to when I'm talking to couples is protection. And protection includes thoughts, feelings, emotions, the longevity of the relationship, and the legacy of the relationship. And so oftentimes when we talk about infidelity, when we talk about finances, when we talk about addictions, when we talk about impulsivity, that protection word always comes up, because it's like, are you protecting this relationship? Are you protecting my thoughts, feelings, and emotions in regard to this relationship? And are you just protecting us?
Oh, yeah.
Overall. So that's what unprotected looks like. Because a lot of times people who have disagreements in couples, they're usually having disagreements because they don't feel protected. Not necessarily that you cheated on me, but it's the fact that you are not protecting this relationship and I feel unprotected. And oftentimes I see couples say, well, no, you're just insecure. And it's like, no, I am not insecure. Or it's not necessarily that you didn't make an action, because sometimes people feel unprotected and infidelity hasn't happened. Or your partner may just be terrible with money. And now you're not protecting our ability to pay bills in this relationship. So that's unprotected.
Okay.
Insecure is when you come in with your own set of traumas based on how you grew up, based on your experiences in life, based on what you believe to be true about yourself. So if you don't think that you're worthy of this great man, you may self-sabotage. Or if you don't think you're worthy of this great woman, you're going to self-sabotage, or you're going to be in a situation where you're constantly seeking validation from your partner, to where now you're insecure, which is very different than unprotected. But they both show up in relationships, sometimes at different times and sometimes in every relationship.
The way it's being described definitely makes me kind of look at the fact of, if the relationship is not protected, those insecurities are going to rear its ugly head and get potentially...
Not necessarily.
Kind of feels that way.
Not necessarily. Because some people come in insecure.
Yeah.
So it's I'm doing everything right, but because you're looking at this relationship or you're experiencing this relationship from the lens of your traumas, you're thinking you're not going to feel protected.
Yeah.
Even though I may be doing everything to prove to you that I am protecting you and this relationship, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, all the things involved in what protection looks like in this relationship. But because you are coming with traumas that you haven't worked through, and you're looking from a lens of insecurities and hurt and pain, then yeah, they could both show up.
Very true.
I don't know. Okay. When you're working with couples, now that we kind of know the difference between protection versus insecurities, what would you say usually is the biggest thing that couples come in with that they feel unprotected in?
The biggest thing I would say they come in with is that they don't feel like their emotions are protected. They don't feel like their thoughts, their emotions are validated. So it's like it comes back to like a big communication issue. And if those thoughts and feelings aren't protected, those insecurities happen. They do start to get worse. They do start to then look for the reasons that would support this idea that this person is not supportive. This person is not protecting me. Even if they are actually, this person is doing to the best of their knowledge everything that they're supposed to make their partner feel protected.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I always say, like, even with couples, what comes up a lot from the ones that I've worked with is respect.
Okay.
Sometimes, a lot of times. I haven't gotten the emotional, not feeling emotionally protected, because that's always been there, at least more so with the clients that I have. And of course, you can go down the tangent that being disrespected is not emotionally protective of your partner. But a lot of times it's, you don't respect me to lead this family. You don't respect me as a partner. You don't respect me as a parent. And because you don't respect me, you don't protect my emotions. You're right. You don't protect my emotions.
Yeah. The reason why I definitely look at that emotions is because if that person doesn't, like, oftentimes one partner won't communicate with the other partner how exactly they could show that they're protecting their emotions, and something will happen. They're perceiving it through their lens of hurt trauma. And so it may show up as disrespect. It may show up as I don't care. It may show up as this unloved, feeling. And that's not what that partner intended.
That's true. I always ask, okay, so now that you point that out, how do you facilitate conversations with couples on protecting their spouse's emotions, or protecting the relationship, or protecting whatever it is that particular partner feels like is not being protected?
Well, it does bring in that conversation of, am I safe with my partner? And I think that a lot of couples I've seen, they use that word safety in terms of protection, in the sense of, it's not safe for me to share myself. It's not safe for me to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And it normally is I think the safety word comes in there when it's actually infractions that have happened in the relationship. I'm no longer safe. I once felt protected, but now I no longer do. It's almost, how can we instill some form of trust again in this relationship, that I can be in this relationship without being hurt?
That's hard.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's where I get stuck with couples. Because oftentimes the couples are like, they come, right? I'm coming to therapy, and this one session is going to make things better, right?
Oh, yeah.
But then when you actually say, no, we have to disrupt the system that you guys are currently operating in. And yeah, today won't be easy. Tomorrow might not be easy. Next week when you come back might not be easy. But I have to disrupt this system in order for us to get down to the bread and butter of how we got here. I guess I probably get stuck there, because oftentimes that not feeling emotionally protected typically shows up in the form of, you're attacking me. I feel backed into the corner. And so, like, every word, we know clients do this all the time. Couples do it all the time. Every word that I may say as a clinician in this experience with you guys as a couple, it's, you heard what the therapist said.
Oh, yeah.
The therapist, you heard what the therapist said. And I'm just like, remember our first session? I said the therapist is not a weapon, and do not weaponize me when you're not in my presence. Because in a heated argument or a heated disagreement, you are going to weaponize me. It's almost first and second nature to do so.
Mm.
So when you are having disagreements, did you truly write out and process what we talked about in therapy? Did you conceptualize it? And also, did you ask to take a break?
Mm.
Then come back to it so that you can actually relay the message you need to relay without weaponizing your experience from therapy.
I think like for me, when I'm like originally meeting with couples or initially, I think I have this, it could be okay, it could not be okay, because that first session is almost the rainbows and sunshine a little bit, and they have hope.
Is it?
I think so.
I have never had that experience.
I think so, because they took that step to come into therapy. It's that initial step. We're doing something for our relationship. Way to go. Okay. And then, you explain to them that little caveat. This is going to be hard, because like couples counseling is kind of like the WWE of counseling. There's like verbal chairs being thrown. We know they're going to argue. And we know that they're going to throw things in each other's faces, get it all out at once. So I just go ahead and just read over this. Let's see which ones we struggle with. And then I also explained to them that this is a situation of trusting the process. And kind of like depression, where you have to throw an intervention in there. I call it a wrench, like you're throwing a wrench into the system. It's the same thing as you coming to therapy. I'm going to throw interventions in there, and it's going to disrupt things. It's going to make things uncomfortable. You'll have some sessions where you have some aha moments, and you're going to be leaving some crying. You're going to be leaving some, I hate you.
Yeah. We're not coming back. Therapy ain't working. This is it.
You are going to unpack this pain either way, but it's why you're unpacking the pain, and will this pain serve you now?
Yeah. I don't know, man. My clients be traumatizing me. My couples, I get re-traumatized every time I end up with like a random new client. Because sometimes clients will call the office and they'll be like, oh, I want to see that therapist. And, I don't see couples. And it's listed on the website that I don't see couples. And every now and then they'll come to the office, and then like another person will pop in, and I'll be like, who you here for? And they both will be like, you. And I'm like, okay, which one's the client? And they're like, both of us. And I'm like, absolutely not. And so I'd be like, okay, Asha, like you know how to work with couples. You can do this thing. Let's see how it goes. And almost every time I let that wall down and be like, okay, let's see how it goes. This is going to be okay. I literally end up in a 3-hour first session almost every single time. And
I feel like my boundaries are bad when I go past the 50 minutes, but that's also where you have to like look at like for me, I like working with couples helps challenge my own insecurities.
Fair.
And so while I may not be looking forward to that particular couple, I'm like, y'all are going to up my level. I'm going to up my game with you.
I really just, I like couples. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love working with premarital. Let me put an emphasis on the premarital couples. Even when it's hard with premarital couples, the ultimate goal for them is they want to be married. No matter how hard the therapeutic journey will be for them in that moment, they are both still committed to getting married. Whereas when you get long-term couples, those typically, they're like, well, I done had this. They see all that's outside. They're like, I can go get it from somebody else. I can do better. And in my mind, I'm like, no, stop it. Because that's not why you came in here. You didn't come in here to compare your spouse to somebody else. You didn't come in here for that.
But there's almost like that underlying intention of prove to me that we shouldn't be married. Or I'm going to show that we shouldn't be married. It's almost like they need the therapist's permission to divorce. Yeah.
And I don't like that, because that's not my job is not to tell you what to do. My job is to facilitate your growth as an individual within this relationship and as a couple. And when you come in here, and it might just be a control thing. I don't know. It might just be, because I can't tell you to sit down, close your mouth, and don't say nothing else. I mean, you can in so many other words, but like me telling somebody to be quiet, I really want to say it differently. And I can't say that because I'm a therapist. But I just think sometimes working with couples are hard, but I know that has nothing to do with us dealing with insecurities and protection, but sometimes it does.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes it does. Because if you come in, if you're already an insecure person, let's say, I don't know, you don't think you're worthy of this person because somebody told you as a woman or a dark-skinned Black woman or whatever your experience has been in the world, right, that you don't deserve certain things. And now that you have it, you're so insecure that like you said, when you come in, prove to me that I deserve this marriage. And I guess that bothers me because I'm like, I need to see you individually. Like,
that does happen because you're looking at how many insecurities are you coming in with and how is that impacting the relationship versus the relationship making you insecure. What I'm finding is a combination of both. There's a combination of both. You're coming in with your own insecurities because everybody has their lived experiences.
Right.
Everyone's going to have some form of insecurity.
Right.
But then on top of that, a problem will happen in the relationship or some communication is misunderstood. And then that also breeds more insecurities. And people don't know the difference necessarily. They think it's the relationship causing it.
This is true.
Versus them never working on their trauma causing it.
This is true. But I remember when we did you, I don't know if that was a question on yours or not, but when we did the this or that series, I think one of the questions was like couples or individuals, maybe not. I can't remember. I think that was one of the questions. And I remember Aubrey saying couples.
I said individuals.
And I said individuals too, right? I said individuals too. And I think that it's healthy for individuals to go to individuals therapy. And then as you work through healthy coping mechanisms for yourself and self-love and like all the things that comes along with personal growth, only then can you actually really truly work through couples therapy. And I say that lightly, right? I say that lightly because oftentimes if you have insecurities and you're coming to therapy, one, to either use the therapist to weaponize your experiences within the relationship, two, using therapy to validate your insecurities, or three, you just come in because I'm just here so I don't get fired type situation. You know what I mean? Like, you know how your spouses give you the ultimatum of like, come to therapy and you already have your guard up. Yeah. So like, if you haven't worked through anything and you're coming in and you have any one of those three intentions when you get here, why are you here?
Well, so ideally, like when we think of ideally, you're going to come to, you're going to know that you need to do individual first, work out your stuff, and then you may jump into couples counseling and then work on that. You know, that whole love yourself first and love others. Ideally, what I see is that they will come into couples counseling, and what we can do in couples counseling is we can kind of not put a complete Band-Aid over, but we can at least point out maybe some things that are happening that's causing such a like a disruption in the relationship. Maybe like give them some tools to help them with that part, but also recommend that they need to work their own stuff out individually. Yeah.
Well, what do you do when one partner, let's say, sometimes it's very evident that one partner is really the basis of a lot of the things that's happening in the relationship, whether it's I'm the person that's insecure or whether it's I'm the person making my partner feel unprotected, right? Based on my choices. As a clinician, do you terminate couples therapy altogether and just be like, yeah, nah, y'all not ready for couples therapy when you know they're not ready? Or do you just continue to try to slap Band-Aids over it when you have all of these things, insecure and feeling unprotected, or when you just have like one or two, depending on the severity of it?
Well, I would say that you don't keep slapping Band-Aids on things. Obviously, that's just not going to heal. But being able to stay in that counseling session, you're in this journey with them, you know? So being able to stay side by side with them saying, hey, I know this hurts. Is there something that your partner can do to support you? The goal is always to encourage them to support each other with their insecurities. Like, do we have to have these insecurities? Is there anything that our partner can do to help us feel protected? So I do say, let's not just throw in the towel. You're not ready for couples counseling. I have said, hey, let's take a break from the couples counseling, work on some individual things and get back together.
Okay.
I have done that.
See, I'll be ready to terminate. Bye. Don't come back.
Sometimes it may feel like that because like some weeks they'll be on their game. As you said, it's going to be great. And then like 2 weeks happen. I'm like, what happened? We use so many fair fighting rules. What happened?
Yeah. And that part I understand. That part. But see, my couples come in with the shenanigans. I'm talking about come in through the minute you close the door. They like, well, they did this. Let me tell you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, wait a minute.
It's a lot of energy.
Where's the talking stick? Somebody, and I'm very low energy. Let's start there.
That's a lot of energy.
Let's start there. I'm very low energy. So one, it can cause anxiety for the therapist. But I guess what are some tools that you would give couples that is seeking counseling, you know, on like how to go into therapy, even though they may still have their insecurities and they still may feel unprotected? Like, what are some are there some tools you can give couples on like, this is how to not traumatize your clinician as you guys come in, or like, this is how you don't get fired by your clinician? Because again, I'm one that's gonna fire you. Don't come in here with all that. And again, it's not because I don't know that couples have issues, but it's just, you're paying me to watch you fight, and I'm not the therapist for you.
So when it comes to potentially firing a client, firing a couple, what I'm looking for is there really no motivation for change? So here's the thing: when people want to change but they struggle to change, that's one thing.
Absolutely.
Like, you see that struggle, there's too much in their past that they are just struggling to overcome this.
Right.
Now, when you see a person, one of the partners that is absolutely, I don't care, whatever, it's never going to work, get out, please. It's fine. That's okay. Because you have, I don't want to sit there and have one partner crying their eyes out and trying to move forward and trying to make this work, and one partner completely disinterested, because, and then you're like, you're not seeing how they're treating you. You want this? Like,
yeah.
So that's what I would think about firing, is like, this is because both parties aren't wanting this.
Yeah.
And that's when we have to look at, do we need to terminate, or do we need to have a couple sessions around, amicably separating?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because a lot of couples come in and they think, like you said, oh, we're going to get through this. We're going to continue our marriage. And even individuals come in with that mindset sometimes, because some people do seek individual first. And as a clinician, you kind of got to err on the side of caution when you make the statement of what's keeping you, or what is stopping you from walking out the door. Because me asking that question is a very valid question, depending on the circumstance, right? But then if someone is in the middle of their trauma, or a couple is in the middle of their ish, right? And you say something like that, they're like, you telling us to get divorced?
And that's activating their insecurities almost. That's activating all their insecurities.
So how do you facilitate that? Like, how do you facilitate those very, very necessary questions and conversations that have to be had in order for them to even get to the next step?
Well, I do like to engage them in some of those provoking questions, those thought-provoking questions, like, what were some reasons that you got married?
Absolutely.
What are some of the reasons that you decided to stay married? If they have kids, a lot of times we're staying together for the kids. We're going to see if we can still enjoy each other's company, but if not, we'll just divorce when the kids are older.
Which is traumatizing, but I'm going to leave that alone.
That's a whole nother session.
I'm going to leave that alone.
Whole other session. But with that being said, you want to say, hey, what's stopping you from walking out the door? That's one question you could ask, but so much as, why are we still in the door? Like, why are we deciding that we want to support each other? Why are we trying to make this work?
Yeah.
What were your original goals when it came to y'all being married? What did you want?
Yeah.
Trying to not put them in nostalgia, but remind them that they once had a drive to be in this relationship.
Yeah.
If that drive is not there, what happened to take that drive away? Can we install a new drive?
And I always have the answer for that one. You guys have to date. Couples literally stop dating. And it's like, your spouse is not the same person they was today as they was yesterday. The insecurities might be the same, or feeling unprotected, or the ability to not, quote unquote, protect your relationship, or your partner's thoughts, feelings, and emotions in their spirit, right? Y'all got to date each other. Y'all have to keep dating each other. Date night is a whole experience, and it is so necessary.
And you're absolutely correct. Like, it is very necessary for them to date each other. I think what happens is, when you first get into a relationship, your insecurities aren't popping up so much. You may have some more superficial insecurities about looks, but as far as vulnerabilities, am I safe, may not pop up as much. As you have this relationship that develops and it goes on for years and years, and you don't see your partner as engaged as they once were, these insecurities happen. And then all of a sudden we have this insecurity of, I'm not good enough, I'm unworthy. We have, and as far as relationships, you start making those jealous comments, that accusing comments, that start, you don't love me anymore, but this is not the same. Like, they start with that, do I need to escape? And is this not going to work out?
Do you think that's gender specific?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not.
I'm okay. I just, listen, I had to ask.
I actually do not.
I'm glad you said no. I just had to ask, because sometimes we get the individuals that come in with those thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And sometimes it is gender specific, because women are raised that beauty is important. Women are raised that you have to keep your spouse occupied.
Oh yeah.
And so when the attention is gone, let's say the husband, and I'm speaking heterosexually, right? The husband disappears or becomes a workaholic because he wants to provide from his family because that's what he's taught to do, right? We internalize it because we're taught that, okay, well, you can't keep your man satisfied. What's wrong with you? Like, we never say, maybe you guys should date more. It's always a what's wrong with you. But I'm going to leave that alone.
So the reason why I don't say it's gender specific, because yes, we do have, and more of my clientele is females.
Right.
So I'm going to hear that a little bit more from the females. But what I am seeing when I do have these couples, I am seeing a lot of, males. So males are taught, don't show that emotion. Males are taught stand your ground. Males are taught very much of, don't show your weakness. So even if you are wrong or you're having those insecurities, not to show them does not mean they are not there. And it tends to show up in these somewhat negative ways. Yeah. And then when you see someone go over the top with jealousy, hitting people's cars, getting in fights, that's when you know that insecurity like took over.
Okay, that escalated.
It went dark, didn't it?
That escalated real fast.
Insecurities have a way of doing that to people.
Okay.
At least my thoughts. That's my thoughts.
Okay. I don't know that I've had any male clients do that.
I've heard some stories.
Within their insecurities.
I've heard some stories. The thoughts that they're having is their insecurity. It creates a certain feeling. And in that feeling, they have a behavior that is completely over the top.
I mean, but now it sounds like you're going from a person has extreme insecurities, or they have insecurities which is insecure a feeling word? Is that a feeling word on the feelings chart? I can't remember, because people say I feel insecure or I am insecure. Anyway, the reason I asked that question is because we always talk about how like anger is a secondary emotion. So like somebody feeling insecure, we gonna say that it's on the feelings chart. All the therapists out there, don't come for my head, okay? I don't have my therapy wheel and my therapist, the feelings chart in front of me.
Next time.
Yeah.
Spin the wheel. This is the emotion we'll talk about.
If anger is a secondary emotion and someone is that insecure, I guess that person needs to identify what's the tip of the iceberg for you with your insecurities so that you don't get there.
And I think that's an issue of I think that's the reason why I think that insecurities can lead to that extreme, because normally you have the insecurity, a situation will happen, and because you perceive it from your pain, you find all the evidence to support your thoughts, and you just go over the top. You go over the top. And that's where you have some more of the codependency habits start to form.
That's scary.
It's scary because they're like, I'll kill you if you leave me. Or there will be very much of that always clingy. When you're insecure, some of these codependency habits or traits start to shine through.
I always tell people, listen, I don't want nobody to love me more than they love themselves. Because you cannot love me in any way healthy if you don't love yourself first. That's my opinion on it.
And I agree with you. And ideally, that is what we would want to promote. Unfortunately, we have social media, we have entertainment, we have these romance novels, things you're growing up with, and all of them point to one partner must like love this other partner more than themselves, unrequited love, be willing to sacrifice for them. Like, we are raised to believe that our partner should put us first in all things, versus the other way around of take care of yourself and then take care of others. It is very confusing for people. Because for media, for society, it's you really should put your partner first. Things are changing.
Yeah. I mean, in retrospect, right, you should put your partner first within restrictions and limits, right? Like, I'm going to make sure my spouse eats. I'm going to fix your plate first. Maybe that's a Southern thing. I don't know. But I want to make sure you eat. Yeah. I mean, because I can fix a plate if you're sick. Or I can fix my own plate and fix you one too. So yeah, I'm going to serve you first, just because in retrospect to that, right? And then there's other things where I'm like, okay, well, if I need space, I'm going to vocalize it, try to at least, like, hey, I need space. I'm going to go on a solo trip, or I'm going to spend a few days at my mom's house, or what. I'm going to just be in a room all day. I just need that kind of space. Some partners are not okay with that because they feel rejected.
Well, that's where the insecurity comes up, and that's where you're going to have those like, okay, what's wrong with me that you have to leave for that long? It's they don't mean to like convey that message, but that's the message that they're conveying because that's how the partner's perceiving it.
So, okay. So how can we teach individuals to identify early on some insecurities? Because I always tell people they're always there. At the very beginning, they're always there. And I'll use myself as an example.
Okay.
So this is a couple years back. I met this guy. He was like 6'7", real handsome, came with Big John energy. Okay. Nice guy. If you can read between the lines what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Okay. Fit, nice looking guy. Well, we talking, we're texting, we're engaging. And one day he texted me and he was like, hey, like, are you interested in me? And I was like, what? Why would you ask me that? And I asked him, why would you ask me that? Because I've heard before, like, sometimes I'm hard to read. So I had to work on that. But I know I've come a long way from that. So when he asked me, I'm like, okay, am I reverting back to those old behaviors? So then they responded with, no, like, I grew up with low self-esteem, da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, okay, I'm not the woman for you. And it's not because I didn't thoroughly enjoy you. I liked you as a person, but I don't have the capacity to coddle your insecurities, because if they're showing up and we've only been on 3 or 4 dates, maybe even 5, I think it was like 5 or 6 dates in at the time. And like we met in real person. So I really gave you my number. This isn't like a dating app situation. So, and I went on several dates with you. So no, like, I do like you. I'm laughing with you. I'm having fun with you. Like, I'm engaging. So when they brought it up, I was like, I don't know what to do with this, because some people would have tried to probably lift them up and continue to engage in that relationship. But at what point do you know, like when you see it, what do you do with it?
So I think that's a slippery slope for a therapist, or an empath. And the reason why I say this is because someone tells you go on a date with somebody, you enjoy yourself, like y'all are really connecting. Yeah. And all of a sudden they say that they have a mental health challenge. You either back away, I'll let you handle that, we'll talk later, or you like, let me help you in some way. So it can be kind of a tricky situation, because it's good that he's vulnerable enough to be like, hey, I always struggled with low self-esteem, so I know I struggle to notice the signs of you're attracted to me. Yeah. At the same time, there's nothing wrong with not being compatible.
No, which is fair.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with not being compatible. As far as a tool to how maybe he could have challenged or thought through his insecurities, identify what they are, is he could have identified, what is happening, what he's feeling right now. I feel like she doesn't like me. So, and that's where you kind of really want to go back to those Socratic questions of what evidence do you have that she don't like you? Exactly. She's talking with you. She's laughing with you. Is she giving you the nasty face? Did she give you any type of stank eye when you made a funny joke? Like, he could have been questioning himself, have I done, what would I have done that would possibly been unattractive? Am I making an assumption? Right. I love this question. Is this thought out of habit? Am I used to putting myself down so much? Right. So when we have these, these feelings, we want to say, hey, why am I having this feeling? Right. What thought is coming up for me that's really making me feel uncomfortable? Like I don't have a chance, or that I'm unworthy in some kind. And then challenging that, find a way to prove that wrong. You're right. Because it is a slippery slope. Like I could have engaged and like, well, let me pour into you. Let me love on you. But of course, that's not my personality. So 1, I wasn't going to do it. And 2, it was also like, I kind of did add that empowerment piece. Like you should have Big John energy. You're 6'7". Let me start there. And I'm going to repeat it. You're 6'7". Like, there's no more to this conversation. I don't care if I don't like you. You're 6'7". The world wants you, bro. Like the world wants you. You know how many women I know that want somebody that's 6'2" and up? No, fair. I'm like, I can refer you to 1,000 women that want you. I promise. Did you say that to him? Yeah, I did. Not like you. I didn't say that part. Okay. Like, but I was just basically like, yo, you're 6'7". Like, I want you to keep that energy that you had when we first met, because regardless if I like you or not, because that's important, right? It is important. But I was getting at like, you're 6'7". Nothing else matter. Nothing else matter. Not to tell you that you should have this big head and you should be, big headed with your 6'7"ness, right? But you're 6'7". You have
And
some
if
things
I
going
don't
for
like
you.
you, well, to some people,
Mhm.
that is materialistic or whatever you want to call it, right? But I just was like, I felt sad in a way because I'm like, you know how many people want you right now? And I'm like, I need you to keep that confidence that you had when I met you because that's why you got my number. And then like they kind of continued on with some more stuff, and I just was like, yeah, I'm really sorry, but I'm really not the person for you because I can't pour into you in that way. So, but I see a lot of people that will engage in that, and then they end up in these marriages, and it comes up, and it's like she's not attracted to me, and it's like, what? If I wasn't attracted to you, I wouldn't be here. Where did you get that from?
Well, because you do have relationships that are formed not on attraction or love, that are formed for convenience wise, different factors go into why this particular couple got together, and they did not grow.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's very possible, even if that person is attractive, I'm not attracted to them because also they've shown enough behaviors that I am now repulsed by them.
Yeah. Which is sad because that goes back to that insecurity just blowing up. But again, most people see it at the beginning. So if you see it at the beginning, address it. Like that was to happen again, I'll just be like, why do you feel that way? Of course, that might be my therapist hat coming out, right? But I'm also going to be like, look, I don't ever want you to feel that way. So come to me when you feel that way, but also don't hold me hostage to that.
And I think that is like that struggle for people that have insecurities and letting people know about their insecurities, because there's nothing wrong with not being compatible. Absolutely. But it does serve to give them evidence that they will be rejected if they are vulnerable, or they will be rejected if they are truthful about what they're dealing with. But again,
just make me feel guilty.
I'm not trying to make you feel guilty, because here's the thing: you're not responsible for someone else's.
Absolutely.
You didn't give him low self-esteem.
Absolutely.
Okay, that was him growing up. You did nothing for that.
Absolutely.
So you're not in charge of emotions. But when it comes to people and their insecurities, again, they look for things that are going to support the fact that they're right. I am ugly.
Because insecurities turned into manipulation real fast.
Oh, real quick.
Real fast.
I can control how you behave. I can control how much you yell at me. I can control all this if I use this insecurity. It becomes a weapon.
Yeah.
And the reason why we're talking about, like, when you see the insecurities, address it, it's because we've seen couples where they didn't address it. And I think that has to go back to where, when you're first dating, what's dating etiquette? If you overshare, then people are like, that's too much.
Well, yeah, dating etiquette, but also qualities. What qualities are present in this person? And I always tell people, no, you can't pick me up, and no, I'm not coming to your house, at least for the first 3 months. And it has nothing to do with sex. I mean, kind of does, but I think that whenever you start to Netflix and chill, the things that you would normally pick up out on public dates, with how they interact with the waitress, with how they interact with their friends, with their cell phones, like the different things that would bother you. Yeah. We miss it because we're Netflix and chilling. And now we've engaged in these intimate situations, right? And we've missed all the red flags, possibly. Or we've overlooked them because now we're Netflix and chilling, and we've become comfortable with this little situation that we've developed. And it's I was gonna say, it's kind of interesting when we talk about, what those qualities, what you're looking for, what you're not looking for. When it comes to people that have some insecurities, if it's a severe insecurity, they form that mask. To where they make you feel like this is authentic me, but it's really not. And the only time you're going to get to see that is once you get to that Netflix and chill. And then you start picking up on things. It can be a little tricky with that dating scene on that one. Dating is ghetto, but I'm going to leave it alone.
I will say that when it comes to feeling, like, oftentimes when we are looking for a relationship, we don't go for the qualities. Like, we don't think that out. And it's a good idea to do so. It's a good idea to, like, list the 25 qualities that you would want in a partner. For me, I take it a step further. I'm like, what qualities do I want in a partner? Because that's the qualities I actually want to see in myself.
Absolutely.
But
and what will they look like?
Well, oh gosh, yes.
Because a lot of people have qualities but don't know what they look like.
Very much true. But people, I think, they will have a tendency of their insecurities make them feel a certain way and they don't want to feel this way. They find a partner that is able to make them feel better.
Right.
So instead of looking at the qualities of something, they're going to go for the feeling, because we believe that we put overemphasis on emotions, I think, sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So if this person makes me feel good, darn, their qualities are what they don't have. And then it shows up.
Yeah. Whew. These little insecurities, it sounds like those are bigger than the protection part. They both usually show up though, but it sounds like this one is the one that'll make or break a relationship big time.
Well, so if you take that idea of you're destroyed from within.
Yeah.
So within this couple that's supposed to be protected, you're going to have the individuals. Inside the individuals are the insecurities. So the insecurities start working themselves inside, start working themselves outside, and then they are attacking the relationship itself.
Yeah.
And then it's really hard to say, hey, we're protected, we can trust each other, when in fact, like, enough has happened to where we don't feel protected enough to have these insecurities.
Okay. So I'm going to leave with this last question. How can couples facilitate healing in a relationship where both terms have shown up? Because if you got both that are present at the same time, that's hard.
It's hard. And from what I've seen of that, you can expect that a lot of arguments happen and a lot of tears. Really. Because
and I'm just laughing because I'm just thinking about how much trauma I went through with these couples I've had.
Because, well, for that couple, this is a daily situation. They don't get an escape. Like, we see them once a week. They are in this 24/7.
Baby, because that is traumatizing.
Yes, it is. And then they bring it to us, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
I'm like,
I need to step outside.
Is this what marriage is like? Because I don't want no parts of it. Please, no.
So here's the thing. It is very important in this situation, when you have insecurities that are there, as well as this, we don't feel protected is there.
Right.
Both have to be addressed. And both parties have to be willing to give their partner patience and understanding and work to provide a healing environment for both of them.
But that's with the operation that both people are healthy enough to have understanding.
But that's where we have to, like, here's what not every couple is going to make it. And there's a reason why they may not make it. Maybe they aren't compatible, and they are just now identifying it and accepting that they're not compatible. Some people say, I'm going to stick together through thick or thin. And that is unhealthy. Well, yeah,
because thick or thin is completely different than I'm going to sacrifice and I'm going to sacrifice and continue to go through trauma. Those are two different things.
Mm-hmm. So some couples will be able to push past their defenses and be like, okay, I understand. I may not understand everything, but I'm going to try and trust this process. Give him or her the healing environment, as well as get myself that healing environment. Yeah. If the couples are willing to do those steps and recognize that there's 3 relationships going on. Yeah. You, and then together. Yeah. Then they have a better chance of success in navigating a relationship where they stay together. Yeah.
I promise I'm going to come off my soapbox, but I will say the number one thing I see in why communication barriers still exist, even when both parties say, okay, yes, these are my insecurities that are poisoning this marriage. Mm-hmm. Me not making healthy choices, which is impacting my spouse's feeling protected in this relationship. Okay, I know that I'm poisoning these things, but my pride is too big. Pride is like, that's within
it's a
marriage.
Force. Yeah.
That's within friendships. Mm-hmm. That's within families. That's within any other dynamic I've seen. Pride is so detrimental to all things in relationships.
And when they feel like they've lost their pride, there's more of that give up scenario happening.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to say I'm sorry to all the couples out there that feel like I'm picking on y'all today, but
I'll support you.
But I promise I'm not. Maybe I need to go and process that in therapy. I don't know, but I just be like,
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say. For me, I'm relatively a newly licensed marriage and family therapist. Not to dime myself out, but I'm relatively new.
But you've been practicing for some time.
Oh, been practicing for some time. Sorry, yes, I am skilled. But you have some marriage and family therapists that have been doing this for 20 years.
Absolutely.
And so when it comes to, what we're comfortable with, you are comfortable with premarital counseling because you know your jam, your stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. That means you will be able to provide a lot of assistance and effort to them. You know, so I don't think it's like something you have to work out in therapy per se, so much as we all know like the population that we
because I
enjoy
be
working with.
traumatized. I gotta tell y'all, this is my TED talk today.
Okay.
Okay, about how traumatized these couples may be. Because I'm like, I don't want to see another couple on my roster if it's not the ones that I already have. But it's fair because there's some people it's just not their stuff, and I get it.
I get it.
I get it. And
get
again, I love couples. I love love.
Mhm.
I love seeing people in
Mhm.
love. I love relationships. But in the capacity of like sometimes, I just be like, y'all are really disrupting the vision that I have about marriage. And I don't want no parts of this.
Yes. Y'all are ruining it for me.
I don't want no parts of this. And I think that may be what it is.
Mm.
On top of the yelling. Because I didn't grow up like that. So when y'all come in here yelling, I'd be like, okay. You know, you ever seen a child traumatized and then go in a room with people yelling?
Oh yeah,
that's how I feel.
And I like that's really like, okay, kid, get out. It's okay. Just leave the room. I'll take care of this one. What are you two doing?
Yeah.
So it does happen. But some people kind of like that adrenaline. They kind of like that excitement. So those are those therapists are like, yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
I'm not that type of therapist either.
Because I'd be like, get out, please, and don't come back.
That's fair.
Not that I don't want y'all to make it, but just not me.
Fair.
Find a different one. So, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having this conversation with me. And hopefully this resonates with a couple or two or premarital couples or even therapists that are still trying to navigate the space of working with insecurities and people feeling unprotected in relationships. And even just putting words on top of what a couple may be feeling. So, thank y'all.
Thank you.